In the absolute darkness, 2 miles beneath the ocean surface, something moves. Not quickly, not aggressively, but with a haunting, deliberate grace that defies everything we thought we knew about survival in Earth's most hostile environment. Its body glows with an eerie crimson light, webbed arms unfurling like a blood-red cloak in slow motion. Eyes the size of golf balls stare into the void, reflecting a pale blue luminescence that shouldn't exist this deep. This is Vampiroteuthis infernalis, the vampire squid from hell. And despite its terrifying name, this ancient creature holds secrets that could rewrite the entire story of how life conquered the abyss. The year is 1899. A German research vessel called the Valdivia cuts through the Indian Ocean, its crew preparing to lower nets deeper than most scientists believed life could exist. For decades, the scientific community clung to something called the abyssus theory, the belief that nothing could survive below 1/800 feet. The pressure was too great, the darkness too complete, the cold too crushing. But German zoologist Carl Chun suspected otherwise. When his nets rose from depths exceeding 3,000 feet, tangled in the mesh was something impossible. A small, gelatinous creature with webbed arms and skin so dark it seemed to absorb light itself. Chun initially thought it was an octopus. He was wrong. What he had captured was something far stranger, a living fossil from an era when dinosaurs still ruled the land above. A sole survivor from an order of cephalopods that had watched entire lineages rise and fall over hundreds of millions of years. The vampire squid is not a squid. It is not an octopus. It is not even a vampire. It is the last of its kind, the only surviving member of the order Vampiromorphida, an ancient lineage that split from the common ancestor of squids and octopuses roughly 300 million years ago, long before the first dinosaurs took their first steps. While its relatives evolved, adapted, and diversified into thousands of species, the vampire squid remained virtually unchanged, a genetic time capsule drifting through the centuries. Recent DNA sequencing has revealed something astonishing. The vampire squid possesses the largest genome of any cephalopod ever studied, a staggering 11 to 14 billion base pairs, more than 4 times the size of the human genome. 62% of this genetic material consists of repetitive DNA elements, stretches of code that serve no obvious function but have accumulated over eons. Scientists now call it a genomic living fossil, a molecular Rosetta Stone that preserves the ancestral blueprint from which both modern squids and octopuses descended. The fossil record tells a story of transformation and retreat. 328 million years ago, in the shallow seas of what is now Montana, a 10-armed ancestor of the vampire squid hunted ammonoids and bivalves with powerful suckers. This creature, named Calypsimopodi bideni by modern paleontologists, was a mid-level predator with muscular arms and an internal shell structure called a gladius. It was aggressive, active, designed for the hunt. Then something changed. Around 164 million years ago, fossilized remains from France reveal vampiromorph ancestors with strong musculature and hunting adaptations. But by the time we reach the Oligocene epoch, 30 million years ago, the creature had become unrecognizable. A long-lost fossil rediscovered in a Hungarian museum showed an animal that had abandoned the hunt entirely, retreating into the oxygen minimum zone, that suffocating layer of ocean where most creatures cannot breathe. The transformation was complete. The predator had become a scavenger, and in doing so, it had discovered immortality. Picture the vampire squid as it exists today. It is small, rarely exceeding 12 inches in length, with a body that feels more like a jellyfish than a muscular cephalopod. Its gelatinous form is covered in skin that shifts between velvety jet black and deep blood red, depending on the angle of light. Though in its natural habitat, there is no light to see it by. 8 arms connect through a webbing of skin. A cloak lined with rows of fleshy spines called eerie, giving it the appearance of something conjured from a nightmare. But the most striking feature, the one that stops scientists cold when they first encounter it through the lens of a remotely operated vehicle, is its eyes. Proportionally, the vampire squid has the largest eyes of any animal on Earth. Each eye is roughly the size of its entire head. Massive, blue-tinged orbs designed to detect the faintest traces of bioluminescence in total darkness. These eyes are not just large. They are masterpieces of evolution, with enormous optic lobes in the brain dedicated entirely to processing light. In an environment where a single photon can mean the difference between finding food and starving to death. The deep ocean at 2,000 to 3,000 feet is not merely dark. It is a dimension of existence so alien that our terrestrial minds struggle to comprehend it. The pressure at this depth is crushing, roughly 60 to 90 times the atmospheric pressure at sea level, enough to instantly collapse human lungs and compact bone. The temperature hovers just above freezing, between 2 and 6 degrees Celsius. And the oxygen, the very substance that powers most complex life on Earth, exists here in concentrations so low they would kill a human in seconds. This is the oxygen minimum zone, a layer of ocean where oxygen saturation drops below 3%. Too low for normal aerobic metabolism. Most fish, most squid, most creatures of any kind cannot survive here. The vampire squid thrives in it. It is the only cephalopod on Earth capable of living its entire life cycle in these conditions. To accomplish this impossible feat, it has rewritten the rules of physiology. Its metabolism operates at the lowest rate of any deep-sea cephalopod, burning energy so slowly it can survive for weeks without feeding. Its blood, blue instead of red, contains hemoquinin molecules engineered to bind oxygen with supernatural efficiency. Its gills have evolved massive surface areas to extract every molecule of dissolved oxygen from the water. Even its tissues are designed for survival, filled with ammonium compounds that make its body neutrally buoyant, allowing it to hover effortlessly in the water column without wasting precious energy. In this world of eternal night, light is not just a tool. It is a language, a weapon, a shield, and sometimes a trap. The vampire squid is covered almost entirely in organs called photophores, specialized cells capable of producing light through chemical reactions. These are not simple on-off switches. The vampire squid can modulate the intensity, duration, and pattern of its bioluminescence with extraordinary precision, creating displays that range from brief flashes lasting fractions of a second to sustained glows that persist for minutes. The largest and most complex photophores cluster at the tips of its arms and at the base of its ear-like fins. When threatened, the vampire squid performs one of the most remarkable defensive displays in the animal kingdom. It inverts its body, pulling its arms up and over its head, exposing the spiny cirri outward, while concealing the vital organs within its dark cloak. The 2 largest photophores at the base of the fins glow intensely, simulating a pair of huge eyes. Then, slowly, deliberately, the squid narrows these lights, creating the illusion that it is retreating into the distance. If this theatrical display fails to deter the predator, the vampire squid deploys its ultimate weapon. It expels a thick, viscous cloud of bioluminescent mucus from glands at the tips of its arms. This glowing mucus hangs in the water, pulsing with eerie blue light. A dazzling fireworks display in the pitch darkness. The cloud can last up to 9 minutes, an eternity in the deep sea, confusing and disorienting any predator while the vampire squid drifts silently away into the void. Unlike its shallow water cousins, the vampire squid lacks ink sacs. In total darkness, ink would be useless. It also cannot change color the way most cephalopods can, because chromatophores, the pigment cells that allow rapid color shifts, require muscles the vampire squid doesn't possess in sufficient strength. Instead, it has evolved something far more elegant. Its deep red coloration acts as a form of invisibility. Red wavelengths of light penetrate seawater poorly, unable to reach beyond about 50 feet. At the depths where the vampire squid lives, red light does not exist. Against the faint blue-green glow of distant bioluminescence, the vampire squid's red body appears as absolute blackness, rendering it effectively invisible to predators prowling the twilight zone. This is camouflage through physics, a masterclass in understanding how light behaves in the ocean abyss. For decades, scientists believed the vampire squid was a fierce predator, a creature that hunted and killed like its squid relatives. They were spectacularly wrong. In 2012, researchers at the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute published findings that shattered this assumption. The vampire squid does not hunt. It scavenges. It is a detritivore, feeding on something called marine snow, a gentle rain of organic debris that drifts down from the sunlit surface waters above. Marine snow consists of dead plankton, fecal pellets, discarded mucus, fragments of dead animals, anything organic that sinks through the water column. It is the ocean's recycling system, and the vampire squid has positioned itself at a critical node in this system. The vampire squid deploys 2 long, retractable filaments, vestigial arms that can extend well beyond the length of its body. These filaments are covered in thousands of tiny hair-like sensors that detect even the slightest disturbance in the water. When a particle of marine snow drifts past, the filament snares it with sticky mucus. The vampire squid then retracts the filament, scraping the collected debris off with its arms, and combining it with more mucus secreted from its suckers to form balls of concentrated nutrition. This is not the feeding strategy of a hellish predator. This is the patient, methodical approach of an animal that has mastered efficiency in an environment where food is scarce, and every calorie matters. This discovery reframed everything. The vampire squid is not a monster. It is a janitor, a custodian of the deep ocean, a creature that helps drive the biological carbon pump by capturing sinking organic matter and sequestering it in the abyss. By feeding on marine snow, the vampire squid and countless other deep-sea organisms help lock carbon away in the deep ocean, preventing it from returning to the atmosphere. In doing so, they play a quiet but essential role in regulating Earth's climate. The vampire squid, with its gothic appearance and terrifying name, is actually one of the planet's unsung climate heroes. But this gentle lifestyle comes with a cost. Reproduction for the vampire squid is a slow, uncertain process. Females are larger than males and lay relatively few eggs at a time, each one large and yolk-rich, measuring 3 to 4 millimeters in diameter. These eggs drift freely in the deep ocean, exposed to predators and currents, with no parental care to protect them. The young that do hatch resemble miniature adults, but with smaller eyes and no webbing between their arms. As they grow, they undergo what scientists describe as a double metamorphosis. Early in life, they develop a single pair of fins near their eyes. Later, these fins disappear and a new pair emerges, repositioned to maximize swimming efficiency as adults. The entire process is slow, energy-conserving, adapted to a world where resources are limited, and patience is survival. Scientists estimate the vampire squid can live for at least 8 years, possibly longer, an impressive lifespan for a small cephalopod. This longevity, combined with slow reproduction, makes the vampire squid a classic K-selected species, investing heavily in each offspring, rather than producing thousands of expendable young. The first living vampire squid observed in its natural habitat was not seen by human eyes. It was witnessed by the unblinking lens of a remotely operated vehicle, a submarine robot equipped with high-definition cameras and powerful lights, descending into the midnight zone off the coast of Monterey Bay, California. What researchers saw defied their expectations. The vampire squid did not flee when the ROV's lights illuminated it. Instead, it hovered calmly, its massive eyes tracking the vehicle's movements, its fins flapping slowly like the ears of some alien creature. The footage revealed behavior that had never been documented. The vampire squid was not aggressive. It was curious, almost serene, drifting through the darkness with an elegance that seemed out of place in such a harsh environment. The ROV captured the creature deploying its filaments, watched it scrape marine snow into mucus balls, documented the luminous cloud it expelled when disturbed. Each new observation added another piece to the puzzle. The vampire squid was not what anyone thought it was. It was stranger, more specialized, and more beautiful than the myths suggested. Yet capturing a vampire squid alive is brutally difficult. The creatures are fragile, their gelatinous bodies easily damaged by the nets and traps used to collect deep-sea specimens. Many die during ascent, unable to survive the rapid pressure changes. Those that do reach the surface alive rarely survive long in aquaria. The record is 2 months, a brief window during which scientists can study behavior, physiology, and diet, before the creature succumbs to stress or injury. This fragility makes the vampire squid a ghost in the scientific record, observed more often through fleeting ROV encounters than through sustained laboratory study. Every data point is precious. Every video frame analyzed for clues about how this ancient survivor has persisted while so many of its relatives vanished. The vampire squid exists in every tropical and subtropical ocean on Earth, yet it remains one of the least understood cephalopods. We know it occupies depths between 600 and 3,000 feet, with most individuals concentrated between 1,500 and 2,500 feet. We know it prefers water temperatures between 2 and 6 degrees Celsius and oxygen levels that would be fatal to most animals. We know it feeds on marine snow and reproduces slowly, but vast gaps remain. How does it navigate in total darkness? What cues does it use to find mates in an ocean where encounters are rare? How does it detect predators approaching from below? What is its role in the broader deep-sea ecosystem? And how might climate change, which is altering oxygen levels and temperatures throughout the ocean, affect its future? These questions persist because the deep ocean is the least explored environment on Earth. We have better maps of the surface of Mars than we do of the ocean floor. The vampire squid inhabits a realm that humans have visited only fleetingly, a world so remote and inhospitable that every new expedition reveals surprises. Recent research has added new dimensions to the vampire squid's mystery. The massive genome sequenced in 2024 revealed that this creature carries genetic information from before the evolutionary split between squids and octopuses. Its chromosomes retain structural elements found in modern squids, even though it belongs to the octopus lineage. This means that by studying the vampire squid, scientists can peer backward through evolutionary time, reconstructing the genetic architecture of the common ancestor that gave rise to all modern cephalopods. The vampire squid is a living bridge between past and present, a molecular time machine that allows us to understand not just how cephalopods evolved, but how evolution itself operates over geologic timescales. The discovery that octopuses underwent dramatic chromosomal fusion and rearrangement, compacting their genomes from a squid-like ancestor, was only possible because the vampire squid preserved the ancestral state. Without this creature, an entire chapter of evolutionary history would remain unreadable. But perhaps the most profound question is the simplest. Why did it survive? Hundreds of millions of years ago, the vampire squid's relatives dominated the oceans. Thousands of species of gladius-bearing cephalopods filled every available niche, from shallow coastal waters to the open sea. Then, slowly, most of them disappeared. Mass extinctions, shifting ocean chemistry, competition from fish, climate change, all took their toll. The fossil record shows a steady decline in diversity, with only a handful of lineages making it into the Cenozoic era. The vampire squid should have been among the casualties. It was a soft-bodied animal with no hard shell for protection, no speed for escape, no venom for defense. It was small, slow, and specialized for an environment that was itself unstable, subject to fluctuations in oxygen levels and temperature. Yet it endured. While ammonites went extinct at the end of the Cretaceous, wiped out by the same asteroid that killed the non-avian dinosaurs, the vampire squid survived. While countless other cephalopod lineages faded into oblivion, the vampire squid drifted on, unchanged, through ice ages and warm periods, through mass die-offs and ecological upheavals. The answer may lie in its chosen refuge. The oxygen minimum zone is not a place most predators can follow. By retreating into this suffocating layer of ocean, the vampire squid found sanctuary from the apex predators that hunted its ancestors. Deep-diving whales, seals, and large fish occasionally venture into the OMZ to snatch a vampire squid, and their remains do appear in stomach contents. But these predators cannot linger. The oxygen minimum zone is a fortress built from physiology, a barrier that keeps most threats at bay. Moreover, life in the OMZ is stable. The conditions change slowly compared to surface waters. There are no storms, no seasonal temperature swings, no dramatic shifts in food availability. For a creature with an extremely low metabolic rate and minimal energy demands, this stability is ideal. The vampire squid does not need much, and the deep ocean provides just enough. It is a master of doing nothing, of existing in a state of suspended animation, conserving energy until the next drift of marine snow arrives. There is a strange poetry to the vampire squid's existence. It is a creature defined by absence. Absent are the ink sacs of its shallow water cousins. Absent is the aggressive hunting behavior. Absent is the speed, the color-changing camouflage, the elaborate mating rituals. In their place is something quieter, more patient, more ancient. The vampire squid does not fight against the darkness. It embraces it. It does not resist the crushing pressure. It becomes one with it. It does not compete for resources in a crowded ecosystem. It drifts alone in a realm where competition barely exists. This is the secret of its survival. It is not the strongest, the fastest, or the most intelligent. It is the most resigned, the most accepting, the most willing to endure. Yet, for all its apparent passivity, the vampire squid is a marvel of biological engineering. Consider its eyes again, those enormous blue orbs that dominate its head. They are not just large, they are exquisitely sensitive, capable of detecting the faintest bioluminescent signals from hundreds of feet away. In the deep ocean, light is information. A sudden flash might indicate a predator attacking prey. A steady glow could signal a potential mate. Even the absence of light carries meaning, suggesting empty water or a lurking shadow. The vampire squid processes this visual information with an oversized optic lobe, a specialized brain structure dedicated entirely to interpreting light in an environment where light should not exist. This is not passive drifting. This is active surveillance, a constant, vigilant scanning of the void for threats and opportunities. And then there are the photophores, those light-producing organs that cover the vampire squid's body. Scientists have discovered that the vampire squid can control these lights with astonishing precision, creating complex patterns, varying intensity, modulating duration. Why would an animal that feeds on drifting debris need such sophisticated bioluminescence? The answer may lie in communication. In the vast, empty darkness of the oxygen minimum zone, finding a mate is extraordinarily difficult. Bioluminescence may serve as a beacon, a signal that says, "I am here, I am alive, I am looking for you." The specific patterns of light could encode information about species, sex, and reproductive readiness, allowing vampire squids to identify suitable partners from a distance. This would be especially critical for a species with a slow reproductive rate and a solitary lifestyle. Every encounter matters. Every mating opportunity is precious. Bioluminescence transforms the empty void into a signaling network, a dark ocean internet where pulses of light carry messages across miles of water. The vampire squid also possesses another adaptation that hints at hidden complexity. Its two retractable filaments, those long, thread-like structures it uses to collect marine snow, are unlike anything found in modern squids or octopuses. They are not arms in the traditional sense, though they are homologous to arms, representing the two appendages lost by the ancestral octopus lineage. These filaments are exquisitely sensitive, covered in tiny sensory structures that can detect chemical gradients, pressure changes, and mechanical disturbances. When deployed, they act as a sensory net, sampling the water for information about food, predators, and mates. When retracted, they disappear into pockets within the webbing between the arms, protected from damage. This dual functionality, part tool, part sensor, speaks to the evolutionary pressures that shaped the vampire squid. In an environment where visibility is zero and encounters are rare, the ability to sense the world at a distance is invaluable. There is also growing evidence that the vampire squid may not be as passive as it first appears. Recent stomach content analyses have revealed not just marine snow, but also fish scales, bones, and fragments of gelatinous zooplankton like salps and jellyfish. This suggests that mature vampire squids may occasionally hunt opportunistically, capturing larger prey when the opportunity arises. The shift from pure detritivory to occasional predation would make ecological sense. Marine snow is a reliable but low-calorie food source. A gelatinous jellyfish, by contrast, represents a concentrated packet of energy. If a vampire squid can capture one without expending too much effort, the energetic payoff could be substantial. This flexibility, this ability to switch feeding strategies based on availability, may be another key to its survival. It is not locked into a single niche. It is adaptable, pragmatic, willing to take what the ocean offers. The vampire squid's place in the food web is also more complex than it appears. Yes, it is preyed upon by deep-diving whales, seals, and large fish. Beaks from vampire squids have been found in the stomachs of sperm whales and elephant seals, proof that these predators occasionally descend into the oxygen minimum zone for a meal. But the vampire squid is not a preferred prey item. Its gelatinous body offers little nutritional value compared to the muscular fish and squid that make up the bulk of these predators' diets. Catching a vampire squid requires a dangerous dive into low-oxygen waters, a risky endeavor for an air-breathing mammal. Most predators avoid the oxygen minimum zone entirely, which means the vampire squid lives in a relatively predator-free environment. Most of the time, this lack of predation pressure may explain why it has not evolved more aggressive defenses. It doesn't need speed or venom or powerful musculature. It simply needs to be in a place where predators cannot follow. As climate change warms the oceans, the oxygen minimum zone is expanding. Warmer water holds less dissolved oxygen, and increased stratification prevents the mixing of oxygen-rich surface water with deeper layers. The OMZ is growing, both vertically and horizontally, creeping upward, spreading across the ocean basins. For most marine life, this is a catastrophe. Species that depend on well-oxygenated water are being squeezed into smaller and smaller habitats. But for the vampire squid, this expansion could be a windfall. More low-oxygen habitat means more refuges, more places where predators cannot follow, more territory to colonize. The vampire squid, which spent millions of years retreating into the margins of the ocean, may be on the verge of a strange kind of comeback. As the ocean becomes more hostile to other species, it becomes more welcoming to the creatures that already mastered survival in the margins. The vampire squid, that ancient relic, may inherit a warming world. Yet this future is uncertain. We do not fully understand how the vampire squid will respond to changes in temperature, acidity, and food availability. We do not know if the expansion of the oxygen minimum zone will be accompanied by shifts in the quality or quantity of marine snow. We do not know if the vampire squid's slow reproductive rate will allow it to colonize new habitats quickly enough to take advantage of changing conditions. These are questions that can only be answered through continued research, through more ROV dives, more specimen collections, more genetic analyses, more long-term monitoring. The vampire squid may hold the key to understanding how deep-sea ecosystems will respond to climate change. But only if we invest the resources to study it before it is too late. There is something deeply humbling about the vampire squid. It is a creature that has witnessed the rise and fall of entire worlds. It drifted through seas populated by trilobites and ancient sharks. It was alive when the first tetrapods crawled onto land. It survived the asteroid impact that ended the age of dinosaurs. It watched as mammals evolved, diversified, and conquered the planet. It was already ancient when the first humans looked up at the stars and wondered what lay beyond. And through all of this, through all the chaos and upheaval and extinction, it remained fundamentally the same. A small, slow, patient ghost in the abyss. It did not conquer. It did not dominate. It simply endured. And in that endurance, there is a kind of victory that deserves to be celebrated. The name Vampiroteuthis infernalis, vampire squid from hell, was meant to evoke horror. Carl Chun chose it because the creature looked monstrous to his eyes, something dragged up from a nightmare. But now, more than a century later, we know better. The vampire squid is not a monster. It is a survivor, a time traveler, a living bridge to a world that existed long before humans walked the earth. It is a reminder that the deep ocean is not a dead zone, but a thriving ecosystem, filled with life forms so strange and specialized that they challenge our understanding of what life can be. It is a testament to the power of adaptation, to the resilience of evolution, to the quiet persistence of creatures that refuse to give up even when the world seems intent on leaving them behind. And yet, for all we have learned, the vampire squid remains a mystery. We do not know how many exist in the world's oceans. We do not know how they communicate, how they navigate, how they find each other in the vastness of the deep. We do not know if they are thriving or declining, if they are expanding their range or retreating into ever smaller refuges. We do not know if they will still be here 100 years from now, or if they will finally succumb to the same forces that claimed so many of their ancestors. These unknowns should trouble us. They should remind us that the ocean, despite all our technology and knowledge, remains a frontier, a place of wonder and danger and discovery. The vampire squid is not the only creature down there. It is just the one we happen to have noticed, the one strange enough to capture our imagination. But the deep ocean teems with life we have never seen, species we have never named, ecosystems we do not understand. The vampire squid is a window into that world, a glimpse of what lies beneath. But it is only a glimpse. The rest remains shrouded in darkness, waiting. In the end, the story of the vampire squid is not about vampires or hell or monsters. It is about survival against impossible odds. It is about finding a niche so extreme that no one else wants it, and then thriving there. It is about patience, efficiency, and the willingness to wait for the world to change rather than fighting against it. It is about the quiet power of doing nothing, of conserving energy, of existing in a state of near-suspended animation until the next opportunity arrives. The vampire squid does not rage against the darkness. It becomes the darkness. It does not fear the pressure. It is the pressure. It does not flee from isolation. It embraces it. And in doing so, it has outlasted species that were faster, stronger, and more aggressive. It has survived where others failed, not through dominance, but through humility. There is a lesson in that, a truth that extends beyond the deep ocean and into our own lives. Sometimes, the key to survival is not fighting harder, but adapting better. Sometimes, endurance is its own form of victory. 2 miles beneath the surface, in water so cold it numbs thought, in darkness so complete it erases existence, the vampire squid drifts. Its eyes scan the void for flickers of bioluminescence. Its filaments wave gently, sampling the water for traces of falling debris. Its body glows softly, a blood-red beacon in the eternal night. It is alone, but it is not lonely. It is patient, but it is not passive. It is ancient, but it is not fragile. It is a creature that has mastered the art of existing at the edge of what is possible, a survivor from a time before time, a living ghost that haunts the abyss. And as long as the ocean has depths, as long as there is darkness and silence and crushing pressure, the vampire squid will be there, unchanged and unchanging, waiting, always waiting, for the next drift of marine snow, for the next encounter with a mate, for the next 100 million years. The vampire squid is not in a hurry. It has all the time in the world. It has had all the time in the world, and it will have all the time in the world, long after we are gone, long after our cities crumble and our monuments fade, the vampire squid will remain, a blood-red cloak in the darkness, a reminder that the deep ocean does not belong to us. It never did. It belongs to creatures like this, strange and ancient and unknowable, drifting through the abyss with a grace we can only begin to comprehend. This is Vampiroteuthis infernalis, the vampire squid from hell, and it is, perhaps, the most beautiful thing you will never see.